Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is guidance. And so many of us ask for guidance and direction and clarity. And the thing is that we receive all kinds of messages and all kinds of guidance all the time that maybe we don't recognize. And so we're going to talk about that today a bit. But before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen just flooding your lungs and flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells and your organs, bringing vital life energy throughout your body and being. And as you exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, all your molecules, all your electrons, lighting you up from the inside out. And as you exhale any remaining negativity, stress, fatigue. And now let's just gently press our palms together. Softly, softly, softly rub your fingers against your palms and feel the deliciousness of that sensation and bring yourselves present right here, right now. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, Pat. It's great to have you here with us. So today we're talking about guidance because many of you I know communicate with guides that provide you with feedback and information. This week has pretty much been a conversation about feedback. So this is another version of that where we can access guidance for ourselves that we might not have been interpreting in that way. So, for example, I had a phone conversation, or I'm sorry, it was a Zoom conversation. Hello and welcome, Robert. So good to have you here with us. We're talking about guidance. Anyway, so this was a really interesting thing because I was excited to have this conversation. It looked like it could be a possibility for bringing dreams into manifestation. I was very excited about it. And after the call, I just was very, very sad. You know, I just felt like I wanted to cry. And I looked into why, what was going on for me around that. And I've spoken with you about this already, but the thing is that emotion was guidance. It was really clear guidance that this was not the direction for me to go in this venture that I am developing. So, when we have emotions, those emotions, their feedback, that feedback is guidance. It helps us to discern more of, what's going on, what feels good, what doesn't feel good. And I don't mean in a superficial, hedonistic way necessarily at all. When I talk about what feels good, what doesn't feel good, it's kind of like we have an internal GPS. And our emotions are, and our body is very much a part of that feedback system, that if we are awake to it and conscious, we can gain guidance and direction from our inner GPS. And so another kind of experience of this inner GPS is like the stomach drop, like when we're maybe meeting somebody new and you just get this prickly feeling. That's feedback, that's guidance. We get to pay attention to the feedback is the best word. The feedback that we get from our environment and from our internal body and being. We get feelings, we get intuitions, and as we learn to pay attention to them, we can learn to decipher them over time, and to notice, oh, I find myself being really distracted in the midst of doing this, that, or the other thing. Maybe there's some guidance in there in the distraction, or I keep thinking of this person. How many times have you been thinking of someone and then they call? Or you've been thinking of someone and then you find out days later or weeks later that that person had some kind of accident or crisis, and you were tuned into it on a certain level that that was other than conscious. So last night I texted a friend and interestingly, like a few minutes later, that friend said, I was just talking about you. And so as we tune in, this is all of this is forms of guidance that I think it's beyond, funny to say, I think it's beyond the rational necessarily. And what I mean by that is we are deeply connected. We are deeply connected to our own knowing, and we are deeply connected to others. And as we allow ourselves to be responsive to the guidance that we're receiving, or the awareness that we have, the more we're able to expand it. So we have the ability to broaden our perspectives, to reach beyond the limits of our conscious knowing, to reach into other dimensions of alignment and understanding. And I find it really, really fascinating. I think it's like a muscle that we can exercise. And the more we listen, the more we hear. And I think that, what often seems like random thoughts that pop into our minds, maybe they're not so random at all. And maybe you have an impulse to go to Starbucks. I haven't been to Starbucks in more than a year, I think, but maybe you have an impulse that is a weird impulse, like something that is out of the norm. And when you follow that, maybe you end up sitting down next to somebody that is the connection for you for some vision that you've been working on. So I have a dear friend who is just a masterful manifester. She just finds herself, and I'm putting that in big air quotes, in situations and circumstances that are the answer to her desires over and over and over again. And I think part of it is that she allows these impulses to emerge into expression, to go outside at just the right time, to meet just the right person, to forward some project. It's just crazy wonderful quote, air quote, coincidences, alignments. And so I think that as we allow ourselves to connect. Hello, Rosalind. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're talking about guidance and how we are receiving guidance in so many different forms that we often don't recognize, like our reactions, our emotional reactions to something are, as we've been saying this week, are feedback, but they can also be guidance, to say, oh, I just met that person and I got such a bad feeling. It's like, pay attention. Or I met that person and it was like, we've known each other forever. Pay attention. That's guidance. And the interesting thing is, we've been talking about feedback and failure and how, just perception of situations over this week so far. And this guidance piece is, it's all guidance, right? It's all allowing us to gain information and to shift direction and or to continue in the same direction, like affirmation that we're going in the right on the right path. We have intuitive guidance all the time, and it's just a matter of tuning into it, to becoming more aware of it, to be bringing conscious, because most of the information that we receive on an other than conscious level. It's not we get all kinds of feedback from the environment that our mind and body is processing very, very rapidly, and often these things just never come to conscious awareness. And I think that we have the ability to bring more of that feedback into awareness as we allow ourselves to pay attention. And a perfect form of guidance, or an example of this, is folks who do muscle testing, or even beyond that. I think it's so interesting when people have trained themselves to use themselves as a dowsing mechanism, to be standing and to ask questions and to notice which way the body leans in response to these questions. So I've been doing muscle testing for more than 30 years, but I don't do the body dowsing. I'll call it body dowsing. But I find it really fascinating because we have other than conscious intelligence. That's very much the foundation of the work that I do with my clients, is tapping into our vast, rich well of other than conscious awareness. And I say other than conscious because unconscious has a kind of a bias to it, like it's unconscious, it's not conscious at all, meaning like it's lacking consciousness, but that's not the case. Other than conscious awareness is really what is happening most of the time. Our conscious awareness is such a small fraction of all the information that we're assimilating and sorting, and the decisions that we make. So many decisions are made none other than consciously. So in fact, I've heard, we make an emotional decision and then we find ways to justify it, that all decisions are made emotionally, but then we find justification for it to make it make sense somehow. And it's so interesting. I kind of believe that that's true. Even the way that we navigate socially, the people that we're drawn to, the conversations that we have, the opportunities that we allow to unfold for ourselves, because we're drawn to different things. We don't even know what's happening that is aligning us to certain circumstances and events and possibilities. That we do talk about frequency and energy, and some people certainly do perceive those energies more overtly. For most of us, I would venture to say that it's happening on an other than the influence of those energies is happening on an other than conscious level. So I think that we can allow ourselves to become more aware. So I notice now, after many years, when somebody comes into my mind, typically I reach out to them, because I don't think it's random that they're coming into my mind. And so as I allow that passage of that pathway of communication, as I grant it more respect and more awareness, I think it strengthens those communication pathways. So it's interesting to me. We don't know necessarily from whence this information comes. There's so much all the time, and maybe it's that, like radio waves, maybe we're tuned into different radio waves that help to give us messaging that that directs our lives in an other than conscious dimension. But I'm sure you guys have received messages, experienced messages, or thoughts of someone that's like, oh my gosh, I got to call so and so. Or you just think of somebody and then bam, they're calling you. There is this messaging system is guidance, right? And the thing is that guidance may not show up in the way that we would like it to, in terms of, here, I'm going to spell it out for you, do this, 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 and this. Some people get that. Some people get that. It's like, okay, now this is what's next for you to do. And then you get to choose whether you're going to follow that guidance or not. Some of us get really explicit messages, and others of us just don't. Or they come very rarely. I've had guidance through dreams where I'll say my other than conscious, but who knows where the messaging came from, right? I remember when I was in college, I had a dream that I should pursue doing work with bronze. Now, I was in art school, and previous to that, I had been a glass blower, and I had taken classes in industrial design, like mold making. And I had also worked for a candle company. So I had done a lot of work with wax. And this dream was go do some, learn how to do bronze sculpture. Well, interestingly enough, this was my other than conscious mind, I'll say, putting all this information together to give me guidance. And the thing is, with bronze work, it has to do with molds, and it has to do with molten materials and wax and polishing, like in glass. And so all these skills that I had already had, my other than conscious awareness put it all together and gave me guidance to pursue something that incorporated all those things. So really fascinating the way that we communicate information or guidance to ourselves. So one way is emotionally, by the emotional feedback that we have to something or someone or a circumstance, an impulse to take a certain action. We have bodily sensations that can be guidance. You know, it's like if the hair goes up on the back of your neck, then that's like a warning signal, right? I don't have any hair on the back of my neck, I can say, but most of us do. And, you know, you can maybe, like, if you get goosebumps or all of a sudden your body just tenses up, you can take this as guidance. And I think that the key is probably to be very conscious about how we interpret that guidance. But you know, if for instance the hair goes up on the back of your neck, it's a high alert signal, right? And maybe the spidey sense, you know, we all have that spidey sense where we can pick up on things around us and we can know, hey, you know what, this is not a good situation to be in. And other times we can also connect with people in such a way that we feel tremendously safe, and we might have a really profound attraction to somebody, and that's also perhaps guidance to say, okay, well, you know, there's maybe something to discover here. And I'm wondering what ways you receive guidance. I know that a lot of folks are in direct communication with actual guides and angels and spirits. If I am, it's not represented consciously for me in that way. But what kind of guidance do you receive? What do you notice that allows you to make decisions, take directions, follow new pathways? What kinds of guidance do you receive? I know that one of the things that I have learned to honor over time, and I think that this is a challenge for folks who really want to see the best in everybody. I used to project all kinds of stardust and rainbows on people, I would say. So for when people would tell me, for instance, you know, I'm this, that, or the other, that was not a positive thing, people will often tell you, you know, I'm not a good person, or I'm not, and fortunately, I haven't encountered many of those people. But when people tell you those things, listen. You know, this is guidance, and you get to pay attention. And I know that in the past I had not, and I would say to people, "Oh no, you're really good. You're a good person. You're light. You're wonderful. That's not true. Blah blah blah." And when I refused to pay attention to these messages from people and to take that guidance, I paid the price for it over and over. So now I listen, and now I don't just see the diamond in someone, because we all have the ability to see the diamond in another person, right? To see this brilliant, brilliant light. And the thing is that that brilliant light may be there, but it may not be what that person is expressing. And so be awake and alert. Be awake and alert. And Rosalind says, self-talk is a silent inner voice for me. And it says, to pay attention or to take action. Beautiful, Rosalind. Thank you for that. Absolutely. This inner voice that says pay attention and take action. So there are moments when all of a sudden you might have this awakening, this part of you inside that's saying, wake up, pay attention, be alert, take action. Now's the time. And when we have those moments of clarity, they're helping us to stay in alignment, to stay on track, to stay on purpose, and sometimes to be safe, to take care of ourselves, to forward ourselves, even to notice that here's an opportunity, here's an amazing opportunity. And so this whole notion of guidance and feedback, it comes in so many forms, and it may come, some of us receive guidance by just noticing kind of signs, like I love chipmunks. I don't know why, but I just love chipmunks. And so there are times when I have just sort of asked to see a chipmunk, and then the chipmunk shows up, and when I see a chipmunk, it kind of is a confirmation for me, like I'm on the right track. It's like a wink from the universe. We get winks from the universe all the time. And when we notice them, and when we receive them, that is guidance. It may be confirmation guidance, it may be redirection guidance, it may be more specific, like take a new action type guidance. And when I think that when we receive a message, when we allow ourselves the conscious awareness of that, like I said, we are strengthening the muscle, we're opening the channel to be able to receive more guidance and better guidance, clearer guidance. I remember growing up, I just would pray voraciously for guidance, for direction, like what am I supposed to do? And I think that the desperation with which I asked that, I believed it had to be outside myself, rather than noticing what were the things that I was drawn to, rather than noticing what were the things that gave me joy. These answers to these questions are also guidance, because when we follow, I believe, when we follow our joy, and I don't mean compulsion, I mean true joy, our inspiration, when we listen to and follow our inspiration, that's guidance. All of that is guidance to take us further in the direction that our soul is yearning to express itself, that our soul is yearning to go. And these desires are guidance. And again, I don't mean compulsions, and I'm not talking about addictive patterns or negative patterns in any way. I'm talking about the inspired desires are leading us into a fuller expression of our foundational being. And the more we listen, the more we pay attention, the more we'll find ourselves in the flow of our purest expression. So with that, I think I'm going to call it a morning. I want to say thank you again to you, everyone who's joining us and participating and just being present for this these conversations. I so appreciate you and the opportunity to explore all these different thoughts, ideas, experiences. It's really a treat to be with you. So I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live each weekday morning here on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page at 9 a.m. Eastern. And I invite you to check out all the other wonderful programming on Enlightened World Network. Oh, how wonderful, Michael. That's wonderful, wonderful to hear. I'm so glad this was just what you needed. I hope you'll join us again in the future. So again, wishing you wonder and joy and a deeper and richer connection to your guidance with lots and lots of love